In today's video, we're going to be covering my favourite transfer targets ahead of Game Week 13. We're also going to be looking at all the key data you need as well to make the best decisions this game week. Now, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 15,000 subscribers by the end of the season, and it is only possible with your amazing support. Also, get your comments in if there are any players missed or with any dilemmas that you are potentially having ahead of the next game week. First off, as we always like to start off with, our transfer targets video is just focusing on Game Week 13 alone. We're going to be using the Fantasy Football Hub kind of predicted goals and clean sheet data. It's not as good as the 11fi one or of course the Rob T FPL SpreadX betting data, but it does give us kind of, I would say, an initial kind of teams or players that we need to be looking to target just for that individual game week, because sometimes we can get lost obviously looking a little bit too further forward. In terms of the decent fixtures, obviously we start off with Brighton playing on Friday night against Southampton. João Pedro definitely going to be a popular pick after what he did today as well. Danny Welbeck and maybe some of their defensive assets might be worth some consideration as well, with some decent fixtures coming up for Brighton over the next few weeks. Nottingham Forest have their last good fixture in a long while against Ipswich, so probably going to be the last run out of Chris Wood, Aina, Milenkovic, all of these players. After that point, I'm probably going to recommend selling. And as we'll see with the 11fi data as well, they absolutely nosedive over the next few weeks, not only in terms of projected clean sheets, but in terms of those projected goals as well. Wolves-Bournemouth should be a pretty great game. Both teams don't really defend exceptionally well, so that should be a decent one. Brentford against Leicester, again, probably going to be the last run out for, the likes of Mbeumo and Vissa, with their fixtures taking a little bit of a nosedive as well, so we'll start to move away from some of their assets. Good fixture for Arsenal as well in the late Saturday kickoff, and then there's some crackers on Sunday as well. Liverpool against Manchester City, obviously going to be the big one. Haaland versus Salah, obviously probably not going to be looking in terms of captaincy, and it could be quite a varied captain this week. I do feel like looking at this on paper, you're probably going to have to say that maybe somebody like Saka is probably going to be the best captaincy option for next game week, or of course Cole Palmer potentially with that Sunday afternoon game against Aston Villa. Let's move on then. Let's take a look at the 11fi data coming up over the next few game weeks. This, of course, will be available in the description if you want to go and check it out for yourself. Over the next 5 game weeks, this is the clean sheet odds. Obviously, Arsenal getting back to a clean sheet today, and as we can see over the next few weeks, really strong projections. And I do feel like Gabriel, Raya, Saliba all potentially should be on your shopping lists for future game weeks as well, because there's some decent fixtures coming up for Arsenal over this busy festive period. Again, they're still one of the best teams for XG conceded. They don't really give away too many opportunities. The 11fi data is looking at good, and I feel they've probably been a little bit unfortunate not to have kept more clean sheets so far this season. So definitely a team I'll be looking to invest in. Chelsea were very unfortunate right at the end of the game to give obviously away a penalty. I think Colwell, obviously, if he's fit and available, will be a player I would be looking at. Robert Sanchez in goal could also be a decent option. Newcastle, people like Lewis Hall, definitely going to be on the radar as well. Brighton have got some good percentage chances, but I just don't think I can go there. They don't seem like a team that can really keep a clean sheet, to be honest. So again, probably going to be maybe looking to start to shift off of those guys. And then, like I said, with the Nottingham Forest ones, of course, take the Ipswich fixture with Aina or Milenkovic. And then after that point, we are probably going to start to look to switch away with really low percentage chance of clean sheets over the next few weeks. As we can see as well, Everton, they also kind of flip after game week 14, and there's some really difficult fixtures coming up. So if you have got Mikolenko, maybe a Branthwaite, a Tarkowski, one of these players, again, probably going to be looking to potentially shift off of those guys. Let's go ahead and continue looking at projected data from 11fi. This time, of course, looking at projected goals for the next 5 game weeks. City, Arsenal, Liverpool, the top teams again. Looking at Bukayo Saka and looking at those Arsenal fixtures, some really tempting numbers over there, to be honest. Definitely delicious fixtures. And obviously, if you are consider going without Erling Haaland and having a midfield free of Palmer, Salah and Saka, it could be very beneficial over the next few weeks. Again, we are also seeing some great fixtures coming up for Chelsea, some great projected goal numbers as well. So Nicholas Jackson and Cole Palmer definitely going to be on people's radars as well. Newcastle, not a bad set for them. Obviously 14, the difficult game against Liverpool, but maybe somebody like Alexander Isak, yet to play in game week 12, could also be a decent option as well. Watkins got himself back on the score sheet. Now, they've not got the greatest fixture in 13. However, 14 14 and 15 are looking exceptionally good. So maybe if you've got Watkins, could potentially be worth keeping him. Obviously, we're seeing that Brighton one as well. Obviously, their game against Southampton is going to be the big appeal for people going for João Pedro, Danny Welbeck, stuff like that, and really, really good projected goal numbers. Interestingly, from 11-5, they have the best projected goal numbers for match day 13. Not something I was expecting saying, but obviously with Liverpool and City up against each other, it does leave the door open, and Brighton are leading that way as well. So could be a great week to jump on the bandwagon for João Pedro. And again, like I said, with the Everton and Nottingham Forest fixtures, both of these sides having a little bit of a turn over the festive period, and probably going to be the last week we are going to be owning Chris Wood. And after that point, as you can see, some really, really big nosedives. So I think this is probably going to be the period where we do obviously look to switch away from Chris Wood, in my personal opinion. Obviously, I know he's been exceptionally great for people, but I do feel like we do have to start looking at other alternative options. Forest, for me, today proved that they're not one of those sides that are going to be challenging towards the top half of the table. Looked a little bit limp against Arsenal, to be honest. Didn't really pose too many attacking threats. So for me personally, it's going to be a team I'm going to be switching away from with these difficult fixtures coming up. Right, something I wanted to look at before, of course, we go and take a look at some players that I'm going to recommend to sell and buy and stuff like that, is of course the festive schedule, because I keep saying to people in my deadline streams, my preview streams, for me personally, I want to be picking up players that, you know, don't play in European football, or of course don't play in the Carabao, as we can see here, or are just 90-minute solid men, the decent minutes. Because as we can see here, look how many games we've got all the way till the end of the year. Obviously, we've got European football this midweek. Then we're back with Game Week 13 starting on Friday. Then, of course, it's a midweek round starting on Tuesday. Then a weekend round. Then another Champions League round. Then we're back. Like, as you can see here, it just gets super, super busy. And for the teams like Liverpool, Manchester City, they've got a lot of European football coming up. Same with Arsenal as well. So looking at this, Saka is going to play probably in all three of those games, those additional games, isn't he? The two Champions League, maybe he'll probably sit out the Carabao, but we know what Arteta's like. He's a little bit of a mental man and will run Saka into the ground. That is probably the only thing that would be concerning me. Haaland isn't in the Carabao Cup, but will be playing in both of the European rounds. So again, that's not great. And then Mohamed Salah again is in all three. So not ideal. The only man that doesn't feature in these additional games outside of the Premier League, of course, is going to be Cole Palmer. He doesn't, obviously not part of Chelsea's Europa Conference League side. Also, Chelsea are out of the Carabao Cup as well. So he's not going to feature in any of these additional games. So for me, a really, really good buy. I know he's not been in the greatest form of recent weeks. However, like I said, he's only going to be playing these Premier League games and not the ones in yellow. So that's a good big tick as one of our premiums. And like I said, that people were suggesting maybe like buying like a Luca Digne, you know, these other kind of fringe players. Obviously, João Pedro, somebody that people are obviously starting to look at. Look how many games they've got. Look at the rotation risk. And for me personally, I'm not going there. I'm genuinely not going to go there because of that rotation risk. There's so many games coming up. Even some players that we think are 90-minute men will see some rotation. It always happens over this busy festive period. It's going to be exceptionally difficult as well to predict when people are going to be dropped, because there's just so many games coming quick and fast over that busy festive period that I thought what I'd do is I put together a little bit of a guide, because obviously the FDR ratings on the website doesn't include the Champions League round or the EFL Cup round as well. And some people who live outside of the UK might have potentially not even known that these things were happening as well outside of FPL. So if you want to take a screenshot of it, it's going to probably be a really, really useful thing for the next coming game weeks. But let's go and take a look at some players to recommend for you buying in Game Week 13. Let's move on. Let's take a look at some players that I potentially think you should be looking to buy ahead of Game Week 13. Of course, we're going to start off with Arsenal's star boy, Bukayo Saka. A goal and an assist for him today. Obviously delivered. I know there was some doubts around whether or not he was going to be playing. Of course, that is usually the way that it goes with Bukayo Saka. He usually ends up playing. But of course, there is the Arteta mind games. And with so many fixtures, that potentially could be something to consider. Do you know you want somebody that is usually probably going to be limping off around the 80th minute, then have to deal with the Arteta mind games every single week? That is the only caveat. And I think, you know, those busy fixture schedules, as we saw with the Carabao and of course the Champions League 2 rounds coming up as well, Arsenal involved in both of those, But if we just look at the next 5 Premier League fixtures, I think that is an absolutely exceptional run for Arsenal coming up. West Ham's a great fixture. We don't really know what United are going to be like, but with Arsenal being the home team, I probably would still back them to go and get the victory there. Fulham, Everton and Crystal Palace following on from that as well. Great fixtures. Came back with an absolute bang today. And if you do buy in early to this train, he is probably going to be a big differential. Not a lot of people have got him. I think he was around about 25% effective ownership today. And you do imagine, there will be a little bit of an increase next week. But, as we keep going, the Arsenal fixtures keep getting better and better and better. And I do feel like across this period as well, he could offer some decent captaincy potential. Around game week 18 is where I probably would be looking, with him playing one of the newly promoted sides as well. Like I said, the only caveat is, of course, that injury record, or that kind of iffy record, and then obviously playing into the Arteta mind games that would be slightly leaning me not going for Bukayo Saka. I think as well, looking at it, of course, we've got to factor in those busy festive periods as well. Arsenal, like I said, having those 3 additional fixtures, as well as so many Premier League games coming up. Saka could be obviously playing in all of them, because he usually plays in pretty much most games as well that he is fit and available for. And he could potentially run himself into the ground, pick up injuries and stuff like that. But there is no doubting this man could do exceptionally well over this amazing fixture run. But let me know which way you're potentially thinking on Bukayo Saka. Let's move on to the next player then, and let's talk about the 2 Chelsea boys, Nicholas Jackson and Cole Palmer. The fixtures, there's only 3 here on the screen, but my God, this Chelsea fixture run is absolutely incredible. Arguably, this is probably one of the most difficult periods. You could hold both of these guys realistically up until around game week 29. That's how good this Chelsea fixture run is. If you don't believe me, just check the FDR rating for yourself. Go and have a look. It's absolutely ridiculous. Jackson with another goal involvement today. He's having a really good season. Genuinely, it's like he's found his finishing boots. Plenty of big chances, plenty of shots in the box as well. And his XG is actually a little bit down. He's still doing exceptionally well, but he's just managing to put goals away, which is what we really want to see. Of course, the only concern you do have with Nicholas Jackson is the depth that Chelsea have. Like I said, lots of fixtures coming up. They've got Nkunku that can play up front. João Felix can also play as a 9. It's probably going to be more Nkunku that's going to be dicing with his minutes, and that is a little bit of a concern. The other problem I would have is the fact that Nicholas Jackson is on 4 yellow cards. You are dicing with death, and if you don't have a bench that can cover it during this busy festive period, it could be one of those that could be an absolute killer blow. Something's just going off in that game. Thank you very much for that one, Sean. But yeah, basically, yeah, I think that would probably be the thing that would be putting me off Nicholas Jackson. It's the amount of games. It's the fact that he's prone to a yellow card as well. If we look at his suspension record from last season as well, also not great. He'd love to pick up yellow cards across the board as well. Cole Palmer, on the other hand, it's not been great in recent weeks, has it? I think it's now 2 attacking returns in his past 5 games. Not great. But, of course, if we look at the game today, if Madueke's not on the line like an idiot, then, we're looking at a Cole Palmer goal. Absolutely exceptional. You love that stuff. But that wasn't to be the case today, unfortunately. Again, another day, we'll be sat here, Cole Palmer's got himself a goal. He's an easy buy for the fixtures coming up. And I still do believe he is an easy buy. Going back to that fixture schedule that I pulled up, like I said, he won't be featuring in any of those 3 additional fixtures. He's a guy that absolutely loves to play football, and I do feel with him having these midweek breaks in such a busy fixture congestion, he probably is going to be a decent captaincy option along the way as well. Also, looking at that game week 14 fixture against Southampton, again, lends himself to a potential captaincy option. I feel like Cole Palmer is going to be on the verge of essential. I know the attacking returns haven't quite been there over the past few weeks, but like I said, with this great Chelsea fixture run coming up, the fact that he's not going to be playing these 3 additional fixtures, then for me personally, that's where the way I'd probably swing with that one, and I would be looking to pick up Cole Palmer for me personally. Let's move on then. Let's take a look at the next player I'm going to recommend. It is going to be Matheus Cunha. Again, this guy has been delivering for me over the past 5 game weeks. I've literally bought him in around game week 8, and he has continued to deliver every single week 4 goals, 3 assists in the past 5 games as well. The data is looking a little bit questionable. However, he is the key man for this Wolves side. And if you're thinking, oh, well, I've not got in on the trend, I've not got there quick enough to get these Wolves great fixtures, they still continue. Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, Ipswich and Leicester. Those last 2 as well looking exceptionally beautiful. And the beautiful thing about Matheus Cunha is the fact that he is a bonus points magnet. Genuinely a bonus points magnet. Before he even gets an attack in return, his average BPS is around 12. That means usually if he gets himself a goal, an assist, he starts to enter the bonus points already. This guy, again, like I said, if you go and look at the bonus points he's picked up so far this season, absolutely exceptional. He's the key heartbeat behind that Wolves attack and is just absolutely phenomenal. Again, we're still waiting to see if Wolves get a penalty and if he obviously steps up and take it. If he does, that is an even bigger additional bonus. I don't think it's going to take too much convincing for you to go and invest in Matheus Cunha with those great fixtures, with the way that he's performing. And it seems like Wolves on a little bit of a redemption arc at the moment as well, pulling themselves away from that relegation places as well. So for me, I think this is a very, very easy buy if you've not already got Matheus Cunha. Right, let's move on to our next player. It is going to be João Pedro. Back-to-back games where he's got himself a goal and an assist. I don't think I'd be saying that, but that's the ability João Pedro's got. As you can see here, this is kind of just his 6 games that he played so far this season. 4 goals, 1 assist. That should be 2 assists, actually. That needs a little bit of updating. But as we can see, the Brighton fixtures are absolutely phenomenal. Harping back to the 11FI data as well, looking at those projected goals, they are the best for game week 13 as well for Brighton. So it's looking exceptionally good. However, the problem and the big problem I do have with João Pedro, I was saying this to people in the deadline stream, of course, is going to be the rotation. We saw him come off with an early substitution today around the 63rd minute. Brighton have got so many players that can play within that 10 role as well. I believe he is their best 10, but they do have so many players that can play in that role. Again, looking back to that festive schedule, seeing how many fixtures are going to be coming up, João Pedro might be benched for a couple of those, or could even not even feature in some of those games, or could come off early with some early substitutions. But I think the caveat is the fact that his price point is so cheap, and if it does allow you to go and get yourself a Saka, a Salah, a Palmer, I'm all for it, because he is one of those players that is dirt cheap, and when he even sees around 30 to 40 minutes, he can still deliver some absolute magic. We've seen that earlier in the season as well, so maybe the minutes for him might not be a bigger issue. But for me personally, I don't really have the bench to cover off somebody like João Pedro, so I don't think I'm going to be touching him personally, and that is kind of the advice I am offering out to people. He is a phenomenal asset, and he's absolutely exceptional at the bargain bottom price he is. However, he will see some benchings, he will miss out on some games, so do just be wary of that one going forward. Let's move on then, let's finish up today's video as we always do, taking a look at the projected points for the next 5 game weeks. Salah, Haaland and Palmer, the top 3. Thankfully, I've got all 3 on my side, so I'm feeling pretty handy here. Then followed by Saka as well. I probably feel that should be a little bit higher and maybe will be tweaked after today's performance. Obviously, there was some doubts around him playing, being flagged as well, and I do imagine the AI algorithm over at Fantasy Football Hub will update and will probably put Saka close to Palmer, Haaland and Salah over the next few weeks. Alexander Isak is a player we've not really spoken about in today's video. I like him as an option going forward as well. Obviously, they're yet to play in this game week against West Ham, so we'll have to wait and see on him. Matheus Cunha, a player we have spoke about on here. Again, looking really, really good. The projected points are also fancying him to do exceptionally well. Same with Nicholas Jackson, another player we have spoken about on this list as well. Then we are seeing Chris Wood on there. I think for me personally, like I said, looking at that 11FI data, I'm expecting a big drop off after the Ipswich performance. And then somebody that I think if you've got Bryan Mbeumo, obviously his recent performances have been disappointing, and obviously next game week is the last good fixture that you've got with Brentford. If you are looking for a way out, the man at the bottom, Jarrod Bowen, their fixtures really, really pick up around game week 14. He is the ideal Bryan Mbeumo replacement for me. So yeah, I would be keeping tabs on Jarrod Bowen over the next few games and looking to bring him in game week 14. Let me know what you think of today's video down in the comment section below. If you've got any questions about your team, make sure to get them into the comment section. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 13.